The Place of Prayer is a series of ruins to the north of Sepal. And it's a sequence of increasingly difficult fights, 4 separate waves of enemies, before you finally get the treasure, which is the Bal necklace. The necklace has pretty good starting stats and some pretty nice perks. And as the fights are kind of tricky, I wouldn't recommend trying to take on the fights until after you've acquired at least blue magic, just to take advantage of enemy weaknesses. But I'm not really here to talk about the necklace. I'm here to talk about an exploit that was discovered by Ohio Guy 1980 in a post on Game FAQs. You see, the Place of Prayer is not supposed to be accessed until you have the Zip ability from having unlocked red magic after defeating Tanta Sila. But what's stopping you from reaching it earlier? Chapter 3, when you leave Sepal, you're in the Barren Plains, and you're heading to the Xenos Guild, which is way over here. This is where you rescue Robian and bring him back. And the Sacred Peaks are adjacent to the Barren Plains. However, there is a wall you cannot cross, and then there is an invisible wall blocking this region right here. It's blocked off with an invisible wall. However, this edge is not blocked by the invisible wall, but if you try to travel through here, it is possible to climb up this. But if you try to travel past this point, you will be turned back by another trigger, not allowing you to pass. So, there's not really a way to progress to the Place of Prayer early into Chapter 3. But after you rescue Robian, instead of in the Barren Plains, it puts you in the Blessed Plains. This gives you access to a whole nother area. And if you try to make your way up towards the Pilgrim's Path, again, you will find there are invisible walls blocking you. However, what Ohio Guy 1980 discovered was there is a spot in which you can get up, and it's sort of near this locked labyrinth. There's a spot over here where you can actually climb up here and get past the invisible wall. Once up, you can travel north, and if you travel up to the Sacred Peaks, you'll find that you can just start to enter the Place of Prayer. There's another turnback trigger, preventing you from traveling all the way into the Place of Prayer. However, what you can do is you can lure enemies, the first wave of enemies, which are just break zombies, you can lure them, and you can defeat them all. And once they are all defeated, the game shows the cutscene for the second wave of enemies and places you in the center of the Place of Prayer. The game says you've traveled too far and you have to go back, but it again tries to place you in the middle again. I think maybe because the game autosaves after the first wave of enemies. It gives you the warning again, and then for some reason the warning stops showing up even though you're not where you're supposed to be. I wonder if it's some kind of failsafe to make it so there's not an infinite loop of trying to place the player, oops, the player's not supposed to be here, trying to place the player again. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but at this point you're past the turn back points and you can travel north. As you travel north, you can head west towards Janoon and head down, and basically you are outside of the boundaries of where you're supposed to be, and it turns out the entirety of the map is now open to you, and you can just explore the entirety of Athia as early as the end of Chapter 3. Or the beginning of Chapter 4. You can also unlock fast travel points at the Belfries, and if you've already visited a refuge, you can unlock fast travel points at the refuges. In this late Chapter 3 state, fast travel itself is unavailable, so it might be better to do this exploit at the beginning of Chapter 4. which you can do. You will have another unit of stamina from defeating the Recreant Knight, which makes it a little bit easier to do the actual movement to get past the invisible wall. You have to do some tricky wall running. So having extra stamina helps, but it is possible with 3 units of stamina. This exploit works up until the point where you will enter Praenost in Chapter 4. If you try to do the exploit after that point in the story, you'll find out that the Sacred Peak's turnback trigger has moved, and as such, if you kill the first wave of enemies there, you will not trigger the glitch. Performing this glitch does change the state of the game. You are not merely past the trigger, you are also in a state that allows you to be out of bounds, and there are some weird side effects as well. So if you use Cuff Scan, materials will not properly light up, so it makes collection of materials a little bit harder. And if you run across a mutant, the mutant battle will not stop even if you run away. So you'll be stuck in this battle state if you get too close to a mutant, so be warned of that, because that'll prevent you from warping, and also will prevent you from escaping from depths if you try to use the look up trigger to leave the depths. But yeah, you can make your way through Janoon. You can visit Janoon Castle, however, there's really nothing there going on. Obviously, much later in the story, in Chapter 11, there are some important events that occur there, but none of those are accessible in this early part of the story. You can head through Janoon and make your way to Aviwalet, and from there you can head to Visoria and the Visorian Depths. You can make your way all the way to Visoria Castletown. However, the castle front gate is blocked by an enemy trigger, and that will not let you in until you've defeated the lantern enemies, which will not spawn until the appropriate point in the story. So there's not a sequence break with this. Another thing you can do is head into the Aviwalet Depths and head all the way to the final Ballow Tree. You can get the Samum Coast Refuge there, which will actually be important. This refuge is for some reason special. I don't understand what's going on with this. This is a mysterious aspect of this exploit. But this refuge will allow you to remain out of bounds. The final Ballow Tree, you can't do anything there either. You can't trigger the prob fight early. You can reach Praenost early by traveling through Trout Mountain and then falling into Praenost. From there you can reach Silas Castle, Praenost Castle. However, the door to the throne room will not activate. It's just like a wall until the appropriate point in the story. There's a cool weather effect that you can get if you're at Silas Castle early. If you like really quickly leave the castle and jump down into the city, you can get this lightning effect, and this weather will last as long as you don't run into a break storm and as long as you don't use fast travel. So I was actually able to bring this effect all the way back to Sepal, and yeah, thunderstorming in Sepal. But yeah, the entire world is open, and this exploit allows you to collect materials early, such as getting a plethora of tall aster, for example, or shore violets, to power up your necklace, etc. After you've collected all your fast travel points and you want to go back to like Sepal, for example, you'll find that you're out of the glitch state after warping back to Sepal, and if you try to warp to your special fast travel points that are not normally supposed to be accessed, the game will not let you warp there, and it'll put you right back to where you were before. However, I mentioned the Samum Coast Refuge is special. Indeed, if you warp to that spot, it will allow you to warp there. And then from that spot, then you can warp to, say, Visoria Castletown, and it will allow it. So if you want to get back out of the normal playing area, you can first warp to Samum Coast Refuge. This game is programmed in a way where certain objects will not show up until the appropriate point in the story, which is sequential, and there's no bypassing the sequence as far as I know. The most interesting thing I found was heading to the double Recreant Knight fight at the ramparts from the reverse side. Like, the quest, like the main quest journal entry did update, but the cutscene for the Breakstorm did not play until I killed the knights, so it didn't skip anything. But yeah, I went through the whole story, and yeah, once the Saray Gate is involved in the main story, then traveling to Samum Coast Refuge will no longer allow you to get the out of bounds to work anymore. So only up to part of the way through chapter 7 can you kind of maintain the glitch. I sort of have this guesstimate where maybe on the double Recreant Knights you can save 30 seconds by having 55 purple stat on your necklace instead of 35. And then on Scylla, maybe you can save 1 minute by having 55 purple magic on your necklace. So maybe you could save a minute 30 in the time it takes to do those battles. However, it's going to take like 3 minutes just to go to the place of prayer, not to mention all the time it takes to do all the travel, collect all the materials, etc. So as of now, I see no way to use this to save time. However, it's a really interesting exploit, as it does allow you to explore the entire map of Athia in Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. There may be other interesting interactions that I do not know of yet, such as maybe playing around with the flashback challenges or the locked labyrinths. I'm not really sure. Someone might find something. There's a lot of Athia out there to try stuff in. If you were trying to route in the Sacred Peaks as part of a route, I mean, the Abandoned Merchant Convoy does have the on-point nails as an unlockable if you kill the Nightmares, which, I mean, if you have Lambent clusters, then you can get more damage on your top-level attack magic. But it's kind of a stretch. It takes a while to get up there again, and getting Lambent clusters is not really consistent. As for the idea of using the Place of Prayer necklace as your necklace, I mean, it does come with some nice stats and some nice perks, but the battle itself is just going to take far too long when you're dealing with Goliaths and Harpagos and stuff, and Gruagachas. So it's just not really going to be worth it. But yeah, I'm hoping some more people experiment with this exploit and see if they can find something interesting. I'm sure there's at least one interesting interaction that I'm not sure of yet. And again, it is a total mystery why the Samum Coast West Refuge is like special in that it kind of reactivates the out-of-bounds. Very interesting. Anyway, I don't have too much else to say on that, so I guess to conclude the video, I'll just say that Forspoken remains unbroken, and that's actually kind of a beautiful thing. I'm glad that every chapter is played. It's nice that the game is like this. It would have been interesting if the exploit could have been used to get materials or some kind of useful item like a bit early or something, but as it stands now, it seems like it's not really useful in speedrunning circumstances.